Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
The storm doesn't ask. It takes. It tests. It pushes everything to its limit. Some things are built different. Some things are built to last. Tested by the elements. Proven by time. Engineered for whatever comes next. Summertown Metals. Strength in every storm. Building dreams that last.
Welcome to the newly remodeled Brass Lantern. For over 30 years, we've been serving delicious food to excellent people. Brass Lantern takes pride in authenticity, serving fresh, homemade food to please any member of the family. From mouth-watering to one-of-a-kind steaks served with gourmet marinade, to salad with our signature honey mustard dressing, specialty fruit tea, drafts, and much more. Our food is always prepared daily. Whether you come in with friends or family, you'll appreciate that fresh is better.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome everybody into the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I'm your host, Michael Marks. Got Bryant Gobble with me on this Friday edition, and we got some predictions to do. We got some playoff hopes maybe to talk about. So we will jump right into it. So, Bryant, our first segment was something we talked about yesterday on X Sports Today. What are some of these teams that people around here are fans of? What are they going to have to do to make it to the playoffs? So, 3 teams we picked: Alabama, Vandy, Tennessee. The 3 teams around here that the most people cheer for that still somewhat have some playoff aspirations. So we'll start.
I think you got those ranked to most likely to least likely,
yes.
right?
Yes, I would say I went in order of what their playoff rankings were. So we'll start with the Crimson Tide, number 10 right now in the college football playoff poll, 8-2 overall. Mm-hmm. Right now they are the last at-large team in. Mm-hmm. Based on the most recent rankings. Those will change because some of those teams in the top 10 have to play each other. But Alabama, 2 games left on the regular season. This Saturday, they got Eastern Illinois. The next Saturday, obviously, the Iron Bowl. If they beat Auburn, then they will have the SEC championship game. They probably have the easiest path to the playoff. I think it's just winning you're in.
Yep. And it seems like if you took someone that doesn't really know much about college football, and they're like, okay, what team has the easiest path? It's like, oh, Alabama. They face an Eastern Illinois team. Like, they're a inferior opponent, definitely. Then you look at Auburn. It's like, oh, they're a team that has a fired coach and not a great record this season. So, of course, Alabama should be able to take care of business. But as Alabama fans are like snake bit when they go to Jordan Hare. And it's similar to Taylor said that yesterday. It's similar to Tennessee fans thinking about the trip to Gainesville that we got to go to.
Terrifying.
It's just terrifying to go down there. Like, yes, Alabama's a better team. They had to take care of business against Auburn, and they're in. But it's not as simple as that because just weird things happen in that rivalry. Everyone in the state knows how big it is. It's always talked about. I live in Alabama now, so I know personally seen, just kind of the conflict and conversation, and you get even further south into Alabama, man, they really have some rivalry and some hatred for each other. So Yes, Alabama. All they have to do is take care of business. They should be in. I don't think they're playing for SEC championship, are they?
They're still alive for it. I think if they beat Auburn, they're in because their only SEC loss would be to Oklahoma, who has two SEC losses. So it would be right now. If the teams that are at the top went out, it would be Alabama versus A&M in the SEC championship game. But yeah, like you said, for Alabama, their path's pretty simple. Beat Eastern Illinois Saturday. I don't think that would be a problem. You'll get to see some young guys play for the Tide, and then obviously easier said than done, but beat Auburn.
Yeah,
and this year might be one of your easier opportunities to beat this Auburn team because we've talked about the struggles they've had. They're starting Deuce Knight, their third string quarterback, against Mercer tomorrow. So maybe they're still trying to figure some things out. But yeah, it just seems like anytime these two teams play, it's going to be a good one, and I don't think this season will be any different.
Do you think that an SEC championship appearance would affect them? Like, say they do win, but then they get a loss to Texas A&M.
Yep.
Now they're a 3-loss team.
And see, that's where it gets a little interesting because you look, and the teams last year in these conference championship games, I don't think any of them were necessarily fringe teams, but Penn State didn't drop much after losing to Oregon. We didn't see Texas drop too much after losing to Georgia. Both of the ACC championship teams made it in, SMU and Clemson. And then in the Big 12, it was kind of a down year for the conference, but Arizona State made it in, and I believe they were that 12 seed. So
there's been not always, but since the 12 team has expanded, I guess last year was the first year, there's been debates like, well, should the conference championships even happen? Do they matter anymore? So,
that was a big conversation around this time last year because Lane Kiffin, and no stranger to being a little more open
being
on the microphone, said that why do I even want to make the SEC championship game? Because if I'm 10-2, lose that game, I'm out of the playoff.
Yeah, and
we didn't get to see that necessarily happen last year in any instance, but I think this year is your best chance for it to happen because,
it's a 3-loss Alabama team. I mean, yes, there are the one bad loss is against Florida State that everybody seems to have completely forgotten about. I still kind of want to hold them to that. I think losses matter at the first of the year, but
if we're holding the week one thing, against Notre Dame and Miami, I think it should be the same for Florida State and Alabama, Nebraska and Cincinnati. Games
I agree. I think you have to hold it against Alabama, but a lot of people are just trying to forget that, and I guess the committee is also trying to forget that since they haven't ranked at number 4. Is that right?
I think that was last week.
That was last week. Why am I looking at last week's? Yeah, that was from November.
But
Come on,
they're at 10 now. So
they're at 10. Okay, yeah, man. They need to win out, and it's just hard for me to think about a 3-loss team getting in the playoff. But I guess that's probably your most likely possibility of getting a 3-loss team in the playoff is
an SEC champion,
an SEC runner-up. Right. And yeah, you mentioned it last year. If last year's any precedent, not getting penalized too much for making it to a title game
last year. I believe if Georgia lost, they would have been 10-3 at that point, but I still think that they would have made the playoff probably as a 9 or a 10 overall seed. So we'll jump into Vanderbilt now. Alabama, win and you're in. I think that if you make the SEC championship game, you're in it. I think if you don't win, if you keep it within a touchdown, one possession with Texas A&M, I think that loss wouldn't hurt you as much. Yeah. I think that if they make the SEC championship game, they're a lock. Obviously, if they lose to Auburn, they wouldn't make the SEC championship game. They won't make the playoff. They'll be 9-3. But really interesting because none of these teams have an easy path. So we'll hop on Vanderbilt next. They're number 14 in the country, 8-2 overall as well. Got 2 games left. They got Kentucky this Saturday, Tennessee the weekend following. Obviously, need to win those 2 games.
Yep.
Right now, Kentucky's unranked, but one of the hotter 5-5 teams in the country out of the SEC. Cutter Boley's been having a fun year. It seems like Mark Stoops has saved his job. So this isn't going to necessarily be that same rollover mentality from Kentucky. I think they're going to give Vanderbilt a battle on Saturday. But I think Vandy needs to win this one, and probably by 1 or 2 scores.
Yeah, obviously 2 teams that are familiar with each other. They've played each other in the Eastern Division of the SEC for the past
forever.
For a really long time, and even before I was born, and I can even remember. So these 2 teams are familiar with each other, really close, I guess, kind of a border war, if you will. I think Vanderbilt takes care of business. I think Pavia is the man. I think he's the man when he rolls on the field, and I don't think he's going to let an inferior opponent beat him. And The only 2 losses that Vanderbilt has is against Alabama and against Texas, and both of those
On the road.
On the road,
Two
both
ranked.
of those. Alabama ranked number 10 in the playoff. Texas ranked number 17 in the playoff rankings right now. So, I mean, Vanderbilt's taking care of business when they should have this year.
Funny enough, Vanderbilt, I think, got probably the best shot they got that Texas has thrown out at anybody this year. Maybe toss up with that Oklahoma game, and I think Alabama looked the best they had looked, at least on the ground. I know in that game it was the best they had looked all season. So Vanderbilt's getting teams' best shots now, and the fact that they've made it to 8-2 at this point, I think, is remarkable.
Yeah, and 2 weeks ago, Vanderbilt's coming off the bye, right? So Vanderbilt's coming off the bye, so that'll help them. Auburn pushed them in that overtime game, so that didn't look great. Auburn has a lot of talent on the field, but Auburn not a great team. But it was a good time for Vanderbilt to get that win, go into a bye, and get ready for these last 2 games.
Yeah, I would say I talked about it after that game that I think that win said more about Vanderbilt than it did about Auburn, because Vandy put up 45 points on an Auburn defense that wasn't giving up more than, I think 28 was the most they had given up in a game before that. So defense had looked really good for Auburn, but Vandy's offense has been unstoppable. And now with 2 weeks rest, I think that they should handle Kentucky. Now, what else needs to happen? Because right now Vanderbilt's at 14. They're the 4th team out of that 12-team bracket. They're behind BYU, Utah, Miami. So what do they need to happen? Well, BYU has a big game this weekend. It would have been a top 25 matchup, but Cincinnati has had some unfortunate injuries and a couple of tough games in back-to-back weeks. But BYU's got Cincinnati this Saturday.
Right.
Big game that night. If Cincinnati beats BYU, that's going to knock the Cougars back a slot, and boom, Vanderbilt's 13 right there, just based off that. You need Tennessee to beat Florida. Yes. Now, obviously, it's going to be hard for a Vanderbilt fan to cheer for Tennessee, but you're going to need to, because if you want to beat Tennessee and that win be enough to launch you into the playoff, you want them as high ranked as they can be. Yeah. If they get a good win over Florida, maybe they're somewhere in the 16 to 18 range. That looks a little bit better than a team whose first number starts with 2.
Yep.
You need Oregon to beat USC. Right now, Vanderbilt doesn't have to worry about just the 3 or 4 teams in front of them. They got to worry about the 3 or 4 teams behind them as well, because they all have big games. Oregon and USC play this Saturday. And they're going to need the Ducks to win that game and
USC
pretty much knock
ranked,
USC out.
USC ranked right behind Vanderbilt in the rankings at 8-2. Has been getting better. Has had some good wins. Only 2 losses.
Are 2 teams that are ranked in the top 25 with Illinois and at Illinois and at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So
SC with a win at Oregon definitely could jump Vanderbilt.
Yes.
They have a good resume. They've been getting better.
And that would be something that Alabama doesn't need to happen as well, because then that USC, where do they stack up to Alabama at that point? Yeah. I would say you probably want Oklahoma to lose a game, either Missouri or LSU. That would knock them back a peg. It would give you all the same record with some similar losses. So you probably want Oklahoma to drop a game. That one's not as dire. What you need to happen, you need Georgia to beat Georgia Tech.
Yes.
That game coming up on Black Friday, next Friday. Right now, Georgia at, I believe, 4. Georgia Tech slotted around that 16, 15 or 16. I think 16 this week. And that's the thing with Georgia Tech, is they don't have that big win yet. Yep. They don't have that big ranked win, or at least the team that's currently ranked. They do have a win over 11th ranked Clemson, but we obviously know that Clemson isn't that good of a team anymore. They need a big win.
Yeah.
Being able to do that, it's at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that Georgia Tech game. It was a close one last year in Athens. Yeah. Georgia Tech's going to give them a fight this year. It's not going to be an easy one for Georgia at all. But you need Georgia to win that game, because that's a one-loss Georgia Tech with now a top 5 win on their resume that would easily they would probably jump all the way up to number 10 or number 11 at that point.
Georgia Tech's one loss is
to NC State a couple weeks ago.
Right, yeah.
You need Ohio State to beat Michigan. I know that's a tough one for a lot of people around here to swallow it. I'm one of those people that cheers against Ohio State week after week.
I really don't care.
Yeah,
could like a cold front come in and just freeze the whole place over and them not be able to play the game?
We've had some snow games in this one the past couple of years, so maybe it's likely. You need Ohio State to win that game. Michigan at 18 right now would probably jump with that win, because it would be a win over the number 1 team in the country, the team that's been number 1 since week 2.
Yeah.
It would be a huge win for them. It would launch Michigan into the Big Ten championship game picture. It'd mess a lot of things up. Mm-hmm. The one thing that everybody in the SEC does not want to see happen is Michigan beat Ohio State. It feels weird to preach that. And then maybe just for some safety, I think Miami needs to lose to Pitt next weekend. I think they would jump Miami with a win over a ranked Tennessee versus a Miami, getting 2 unranked wins over Virginia Tech and Pitt.
Yep.
I think that would favor Vanderbilt. But realistically, probably don't need all of those to happen. I think you have a pretty good chance at Oregon beating USC, Georgia beating Georgia Tech, Ohio State beating Michigan. But you're going to need some help. You're going to need a Cincinnati.
I think you have a good chance also with Oklahoma potentially losing to Missouri, or LSU. I mean, that's not likely, but that's not impossible. Missouri's a good team, and LSU still has all the talent that they need to beat Oklahoma. So Vanderbilt's on the outside looking in, but not too many things need to happen for them to. They need to win out.
Yes,
and not too many people need to lose. Like only one of these teams, Oklahoma, Miami, Utah, BYU, any of those teams, just one. You just need one to lose and you to win out for Vanderbilt to be in.
Yeah, I would say realistically, those are just all things that would help them. And that bullet point list gets a little long for the next team talking about. AJ mentioned it yesterday. Tennessee still has a shot. I don't know how.
They do.
I think it's over.
0.01% chance, I guess.
Yeah, it's somewhere. It's definitely lower than 5%. Tennessee slotted at 20 right now in the playoff ranking, 7-3. They're the second highest ranked 3-loss team. The one ahead of them being Texas. So what does Tennessee need to happen? Well, they're going to need some convincing wins. They're going to need to beat Florida.
Yep.
I say 2 scores.
Yep.
14 to somewhere. I said 10 to 14. Probably somewhere in the 14 to 18 point range.
Yeah.
You want to win at Florida and prove a point.
Yep.
How likely is that? I don't know. You need to beat Vanderbilt the next week.
Yeah.
You also need Vanderbilt to beat Kentucky. That's the next point. Maybe Vanderbilt beat Kentucky by a lot, move them up a little bit. But a ranked win over a top 15 Vanderbilt in Knoxville, that would help.
Yeah.
A win over Florida moves you up to maybe 17. I think that's a safe spot to say. And then Vanderbilt at 15, you maybe jump up to 14. Then you only need a couple of teams in front of you to lose. So what does Tennessee realistically need to happen? We'll start at the team right in front of them, Virginia. I think they jump them. I think a 10-2 Tennessee a 9-3 Tennessee is going to be ranked higher than a 10-2 or a 9-3 Virginia. I just don't think that their strength of schedule has helped them at all this year. No. The next team, Michigan. We already mentioned it. We need Ohio State to win that game. Michigan 3 losses, they're out.
Yep.
We need Texas A&M to beat Texas. That would give Texas 4 losses, completely eliminating them.
They're done.
And I would say I think they're done right now. They've got some bad losses, especially that one at Florida, which makes this game Saturday even more important. That maybe Tennessee wouldn't need Texas to lose. I mean,
if you win at Florida, that's something that Texas couldn't do.
Exactly.
So, 2-loss Tennessee team with a win at Florida and a 3-loss Texas team with a loss at Florida, that makes sense for Tennessee to just automatically jump Texas.
Funny enough, Tennessee, you're going to have to cheer for Georgia. You need Georgia to beat Georgia Tech.
Yep.
The Yellow Jackets still in front of you, and again, I think a 9-3 Tennessee will be ranked higher than a 10-2
Still helps your Georgia loss.
And it makes that loss to Georgia.
If Georgia wins out.
Because right now, Tennessee, you have 3 losses to the number 4 team in the country, the number 9 team in the country, and the number 10 team in the country.
10.
Georgia, Oklahoma, or 8. 4, 8, and 10.
8, yeah.
Now that's that's pretty convincing that you're right there on the outside looking in. You need Oregon to beat USC on Saturday. You don't, you're already a couple spots behind the Trojans. I think with 3 losses, they're out. You need Cincinnati to beat BYU. That one is a must. Right now, BYU only with 1 loss. And this is where it gets kind of testy. Is a 9-3 Tennessee going to be ranked higher than a 10-2 BYU? I don't know, because BYU's losses at that point would be to an unranked Cincinnati on the road, and then I believe Texas Tech was on the road as well. So 2 road losses. It would be difficult to get in over them. You need Auburn to beat Alabama, and that would give Alabama 2 unranked losses. I think even though Tennessee lost to Alabama in the head-to-head, I think you probably value quality of losses. Next, I don't know. Do you go with quality of win?
I can't myself say that. I think that's fair.
Do you go with quality of wins or quality of losses? Because so far, I think that the committee this year, and this is just basing it off what I've seen from the committee, and that's basing it strictly off the Vanderbilt Miami or the Notre Dame Miami argument. Notre Dame and Miami have the same record. Miami beat them in the head-to-head, but they're ranked a couple spots below them because Notre Dame has good losses.
Yeah.
Their losses are to Miami and A&M.
Yeah. I can't with
Now, do I think that Tennessee should be ranked higher than Alabama, is better than Alabama? Both of those answers are no.
I can't with a clear conscience say that, oh yeah, Tennessee, let's root for Alabama to win or Alabama to lose so Tennessee can get on over them, because I don't think that should happen. I don't think that should happen by any means, because Auburn's a really bad team, but head-to-head has to matter.
Yeah.
Like, head-to-head has to matter. I think that's what trumps all is head.
If you have the same record, it should be head-to-head.
Head-to-head. I'm trying to think of the scenario. It was a couple of years ago. It might have been Washington
It was that
versus
year.
Oregon or something like that. There was a time where they played them early in the season. Two teams played early in the season, and one team beat Team A beat Team B.
I think you're thinking of a couple years ago when Alabama beat Texas.
No.
Is it not that
It
one?
was like the Pac-12 or something like that, and Team A beat Team B, and they were like, oh, wow, yeah, Team A's better. As the season progressed, Team A didn't look as good. They still won, but they didn't look as good. Team B, on fire. And they're like, oh, well, Team B should be
Oregon
in
and Washington.
I think it was Oregon and Washington. And Team B lost to Team A, but they're like, oh, we should put Team B in. They played again at the end of the year. Guess what happened? The same result. Team A beat Team B, just like they did at the first of the year. And everybody's like, oh, the eye test. This other team's so much better. It's like, okay, they still lost. Head-to-head has to matter.
Yes.
And the proof was in the pudding at the end of the year when the same result happened as the same as the first of the year.
Yep.
I hope that made sense for those of you who are listening. I hope you're tracking with me. But I say all that to say head-to-head has to matter. And ultimately, Tennessee lost to Alabama. Alabama, unless they just lose these next two games, deserves to be in over Tennessee.
Exactly. And I agree with you. I'm just saying that based off what we've seen from the committee, I'm not sure how much they actually value head-to-heads, because there are some, because like USC beat Michigan. USC should be ranked higher. They are. You got BYU beat Utah. They're ranked higher. You know, little things like that. But there's other ones that you know throughout the season that I think have been honestly some pretty lazy arguments. Yeah. And then the last thing, the last team ranked above Tennessee, Utah. You need them to lose to either Kansas or Kansas State their last two games. I don't think either of those are very likely. Okay. Utah is one of the best rushing teams in the country. Neither one of these teams have been very good at stopping the rush this year. I was about to say, if I had to give you a percentage chance for Tennessee to make the playoff, I'd give you a 0.5% maybe, or a 0.25%. It's not likely. It's not going to happen.
But there's a path.
But there is a path.
There is a path.
I would say
chaos needs to ensue, but there is a path.
There is still 2 weeks of football. Yeah. A lot of people can lose. Yeah. A lot of games still to be played.
I'm here for the chaos.
Yes.
I'm here for it. I mean, Tennessee doesn't really have a realistic chance of getting in. It can happen.
But how fun would it be if everybody else just started losing?
If everything just got set on fire, and it's like a dumpster fire, and it's like the scene from The Office where
everything's just
Dwight sets a trash can on fire, and everybody's like just going crazy. Somebody's trying to break a window. There's somebody's legs hanging out of the ceiling. Like everybody's screaming, and that's the kind of chaos I want in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I remember a couple of seasons ago. I think it was that 2022 year that I had in my notes app. I had made another scenario like this of how a 2-loss Tennessee team could make the 4-team playoff, and you needed, I think it was like Ohio State or Michigan to beat Ohio State, which happened. You needed South Carolina to beat Clemson, which happened. I think you needed Notre Dame to beat USC, which didn't happen. That was the year Caleb Williams won the Heisman, I believe. And there were a couple of other weird scenarios that needed to happen that almost did. Obviously, Tennessee didn't make the playoff that year, but that was a really fun Saturday because, who was it? It was, I think it was TCU needed to lose, and I think they did, but they stayed in the top 4 or something like that because they were like 11-1 that year. But yeah, I love chaos a couple of weeks before the playoffs because I like when the first couple of weeks are a little boring when you're watching the playoff selection show because you know exactly who the teams are going to be. They're they're going to disrespect the group of 5 teams, again like they have this year, and it's just going to be pretty much the top 24 teams with the best record out of the Power 4.
Yeah,
and. Yeah, it's not going to change too much, but it's always those last 2 weeks where you have the rivalry games. You have one of those sleeper games, the look ahead, that you miss. Chaos can happen.
Yeah. In reality, do we think anyone can beat Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, or Georgia?
I think you can stop the list at probably just Ohio State. Can anybody beat Ohio State?
Yeah.
But, you're sure. You're like, okay, well,
I think
they can't run the ball, blah, blah, blah. They haven't played anybody. They're not trying.
Yeah.
They have not tried all year. Julian Zaying, their quarterback, has like an 82% completion percentage.
Yeah.
That's absurd because even guys like Ty Simpson are somewhere in the high 60s, low 70s range. I mean, I get the Big Ten top to bottom is not as good as the SEC. I will stand on that, but top, they're better.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody in the country right now that can beat Ohio State at the way they're playing.
Yeah.
Things can change, though.
I was personally against going to a 12-team playoff from a 4.
Yes.
Not that my opinion matters, but this is a talk show, so that's what we get to do, talk.
Exactly.
So that's my opinion. I think it would have been great. I think it was good at 4, would have been great at maybe 8, an 8-team playoff. That would have been awesome. I think 12's too many because I think you have Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M. You got to give credit. I think you got to give credit to Georgia for being in the top 4 and all their good wins. So, yeah, you could argue, Texas Tech or Ole Miss. But after that, I don't think any of the other ones deserve to be in. Oregon lost to Indiana. Indiana
proved that they were better.
They proved that they were better. So, Oregon, disqualified themselves. Oklahoma has had Texas and
their other Ole Miss.
Ole Miss,
and Ole Miss is ranked above them right now. And I would say we kind of made Ole Miss the cutoff line.
Right, Ole Miss is ranked above them. See, Notre Dame, a couple of bad losses. Alabama, a couple of losses, really bad losses the first of the year. I think
realistically, there's probably 5 teams that can win.
There's maybe 5 teams. So this would have been a year if we had the 4-team playoff.
It would have been perfect.
It would have been great. There would have been an argument. It's like, who's the final team in? But this would have been another year. It's like, okay, the top 3 are clearly Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M.
Yep.
And I would love to see. I'm glad that those teams get a bye. I hope that those teams make it to like a semifinal.
So we get to see them play.
We could see the 4-team playoff
Yes.
right there with those 4 teams. I don't want any of them to see each other in like a quarterfinal or anything. I want to see them go head to head in a semifinal, chance to go to college football playoff and maybe see a championship between Indiana and A&M or Ohio State and A&M or Ohio State and Georgia. Any of those.
I think this year is the
awesome.
best year for the 4-team playoff. I think I would move Texas Tech over Georgia. That went over BYU. Their defense is really good.
Yeah.
Georgia's looked shaky at multiple points throughout the season. And you throw those 4 teams out there, you're going to get two great games.
Yeah.
Now, Ohio State would probably be favored by 12.5 against Texas Tech. Indiana probably 4.5 over Texas A&M. But I think that would give you 2 good games with probably the 4 toughest teams in the country.
Who is Georgia lost to?
Alabama.
Man, I just couldn't leave Georgia out though. Like in a 4-team playoff.
But I just look at the fact, and I get almost and maybes, only counting horseshoes and hand grenades, but they almost lost to Tennessee. And, if you listen to what a lot of people are saying, well, Tennessee's not that good.
But they won. Michael, they won.
I know.
Though.
They almost lost to Auburn.
It's the SEC. It's college football. Like a win is a win.
A win is a win. I would agree with you. I just, watching Texas Tech, the way they dominated BYU, and I get BYU is a, they're not on the same caliber as Georgia or something. That game was so dominant. They have Jacob Rodriguez, their middle linebacker, is, if you just took him out of the equation for Texas Tech and had him on his own, he's 5th in the country in forcing turnovers.
Who's Texas Tech lost to?
Arizona State.
Yeah,
and
they're a good team.
I'd say, and that's a pretty decent Arizona State team. That was the last game that they've had with Sam Leavitt and Jordan Tice and all their guys.
If Georgia wins out, kind of going back to my argument, they beat Georgia Tech, who's also a really good team. And even if they barely find a way to squeak it out, like Georgia has 1 close loss to a good Alabama team, and they have a lot of close wins against.
But you think
a
all those
hard
close wins,
SEC schedule.
Most of them are ranked teams. Tennessee was ranked, and is still ranked.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly who all is on Georgia's schedule, but I know that they have a ranked loss to Alabama. Yeah. I'm starting to think of some of those closer games. Auburn was close. Florida was a little close. They dominated Texas.
Yeah,
I think, and you know what? As of late, Georgia has looked like the Georgia of old. Like that game against Texas proved how dominant they have been.
Yeah.
So
they beat Kentucky pretty handily. They beat Ole Miss by a score,
and that was a good win. That was a game that they probably should have lost, but again, they prevailed in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, that was a good win. They
And you know what? I really want to see a Georgia-Ohio State matchup. Maybe not for the national championship, maybe a semifinal. But I just remember the playoff game that those teams put on a couple years ago against each other. And, man, that would be such a good head-to-head because those are, talent-wise, the two best teams in the country. And coach-wise, probably two of the 3 or 4 best coaches in the country.
Yeah. And I hate sitting here holding Georgia's water. Like, nothing disgusts me more.
I know, and I'm the same way.
I hate it. But you got to give credit where credit's due. Tennessee should have beat them. We wouldn't be sitting here having this freaking conversation if we make a daggum field goal. Like, good grief, that makes me mad. Thinking about it, I can't think about it.
Max Gilbert.
Whatever. Are we going to get into Tennessee versus Florida later?
You know what? We'll do that right now. We'll hop into it. That's the big game for Saturday. I'd say I know you got a lunch to get to, so.
No, that's fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right, so we will hop into Tennessee, Florida. Let's talk about it. 6:30 ABC, Vols at Florida. Tennessee 7-3 on the season, ranked number 20. You know, like we said, maybe still some playoff hopes alive. Florida 3-7. They have fired their coach.
Yeah.
Some rumblings that they've had a meeting with some representatives of one Lane Kiffin last night.
Yep.
Reportedly, so maybe. God, if Lane Kiffin goes to Florida, I might be miserable.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yep.
And there is too much smoke with this Lane Kiffin situation for there not to be something happening.
And I was so convinced.
Whether it's LSU or in Gainesville.
I was so convinced when Napier and when Brian Kelly got fired that the only reason that Lane Kiffin would not be coaching in Oxford next year is if he, for some reason, decided that taking the Titans job was a good idea, which I don't think anybody does.
Nope.
Spread's got it opened at Tennessee minus 3.5. Right now is Tennessee minus 4.5. Total set at 57.5. So seeing a decently, I'd say a medium scoring for a game. Let's talk about it. So quarterback battle. You got Joey Aguilar, DJ Lagway, two guys that, funny enough, like to turn the ball over a ton.
Yeah.
These are two defenses that have been shaky at best. Florida, I would say overall probably a lot better, have held teams to a lot lower scores.
Yeah.
But their offense is not very good, and it hasn't been very good on the season. DJ Lagway, through 10 games is yet to get to 2,000 yards, so he's averaging 190 yards a game through the air. He does give you some extension with maybe the legs on a couple of run plays, but I don't think he's too big of a running threat because his sack numbers usually negate any rushing yards he gets.
Yeah.
I don't know how to view Florida because I would say right now that if these two teams played 100% healthy, I'd pick Florida.
Yeah.
I think that their receiver talent would be too much for Tennessee's secondary. But right now, the only receiver of that big three that looks like they'll be playing is Vernell Brown III. Mm-hmm. No Dallas Wilson, he is out. No Eugene Wilson, he's out as well. So right now you got one receiver. Listen, if Tennessee it was one receiver versus one corner, I'll take Colton Hood over almost anybody in the country, especially a young guy.
Yeah.
I'm talking myself into it. I feel like their run game's been a little inconsistent this year. Florida has, and I think Tennessee's front seven has actually stood up quite well the past couple of weeks.
They have.
And you're going to be getting Arion Carter back. This is his first week not on the injury report.
Yeah, Carter seems to be good. Okay.
And listen, I'll tell you, a guy that I'm looking to have a big game in this one, Jaden Perlotti, the young linebacker. He's been coming on strong here at the end of the year. He's been making some plays.
Dude, he had a hard hit
on the quarterback.
Yes, that happened right in front of me, and that happened, and everyone on my side of the scene was like, "Oh gosh," because he came up and popped a guy.
Yeah,
it was. He's going to be good. I think I saw someone on X saying he's a little light, like he's 6'3", 215 or something like that. So he's a little light for a linebacker.
But man, as fast as he is, it hurts.
Yeah, he needs to. He needs to maybe put on a little weight, but he's going to be a real nice player for you if he can stay healthy and keep developing into next year. Something else that maybe can kind of convince you of a Tennessee win, I think Tennessee's receivers match up better. They match up well against Florida's secondary. I just don't think Florida can hold up on the back end if Tennessee's receivers are humming. If Joey can make the right reads and right throws.
That's a big one.
So on the other hand, Tennessee's disaster scenario is, well, Joey hasn't really looked great over the past few games. You can really argue he hasn't looked great since Mississippi State. At Mississippi State, he had a couple of turnovers. You could argue that were his fault. Some people would be like, oh, it was the receiver's fault. But either way, Joey has had.
I'm going to say this. I don't count a single interception where the ball has hit the receiver in the hands first.
I kind of look at it as he was similar to Joe Milton, and he was
just throws it so
rifling it in, and like, man, just put a little.
I've noticed
little
that.
touch,
I noticed it a lot in the Syracuse game with some passes that were bouncing off guys' hands. I'm like, dude, he's throwing the ball way too hard.
He is.
I think he's excited. I understand. That.
If it hits the receiver in the hands, yeah, they should catch it. Joey could also help the receiver out by taking a little off of it, just a little more touch. So Joey had that issue in the Mississippi State game. He's had that issue in a couple other games. The past few games, like against Alabama, New Mexico State, Oklahoma, he's just made bad reads.
Yeah.
He's just throwing it in a double coverage, like just not making great decisions. And this was the Joey that we were warned about coming into the year as Tennessee fans. That's what the Appalachian State people were saying. It's like, man, he can sling it, but he'll sling it to the wrong person sometimes. And so that could realistically happen. He goes down in the swamp. It's going to be night. They're going to be well inebriated, if you will.
Yes.
They're going to be.
They're going to enjoy their Saturday before
The crowd's going to be ready to go, and Joey's going to walk into a hostile environment, and he could have. I don't think he's going to have deer in a headlight. I think kind of look. I think he's going to be prepared.
I would say he's played at. Who are the road games with Tennessee's had this year? He's played at Alabama, where he looked at Mississippi State. I think he actually looked pretty good in that Mississippi State game, all things considered.
All things considered, it was not bad. But that either way, that proves that he's battle-tested at Mississippi State, because I was there at that game. That is a heck of an environment for him to play in. As the sun,
and that was his first road game.
Right. As the sun went down, the student section was fired up. There were cowbells. It was loud when those cowbells were going. He proved himself well for the most part during that game. So that goes to my point. I don't think he's going to have a deer in the headlights look. I think he's going to be able to take a breath and be like, okay, let's run this play. But is his reads going to be right? Is his timing going to be down? Because you saw in the Oklahoma game, the timing that was really on the tight end, not turning around.
Yeah.
But the timing wasn't right with his receiver on that 4th and short with the game on the line. Is his timing going to be right? Is his reads going to be right? Is he going to be able to pull the ball and make the right decisions on the read options, because they like to run him some as well. So Joey makes me nervous. He makes me nervous.
With that being said, though, I like our run game.
Yeah.
I think you got two really talented running backs in Star Thomas and Deshaun Bishop. I think this is a game made for Deshaun Bishop, because I think he's one of those guys that his carries 11 through 20 are a lot better than 1 through 10. I think he's one of those guys that gets better as the game goes on. Right now, Florida and the questionable was their best receiver, Vernell Brown, and also their best defensive back, Bryce Thornton.
Yeah.
If we're missing both of those, that's a lot of production you're missing.
And
I just think that Florida's just a little bit too beat up at this point in the year. I don't think their spirits are necessarily down. I just think that this is a team that had, one, a really tough schedule, 2, has had some injury problems, and 3, didn't have the right head coach. That's a recipe for a 3-7 team in the SEC.
What makes me a little weary to be like, we could have success in run game is Kisslin's out.
Yep,
he's our best blocking tight end, and Whittemore Jr. is still questionable. Nobody knows if he's going to play. That makes me
right now. He's a game time decision. Right. Peyton Lewis is looking more on the probable side of things.
Right. So Lewis is just good depth
at the
running back position. I think Bishop can handle a 20, 25 touch game. I think he's fine.
And you still have Star Thomas.
You still have Star Thomas.
Who can run the ball.
Right. So Bishop is, I think, going to be fine without Peyton Lewis.
And you know what? I think this secondary might have their best game of the year for one factor.
Okay.
It's the first game of the year without Boo Carter. And I don't want to take that in necessarily a bad manner, but there were a couple of Boo's bigger plays on the year.
Addition by subtraction.
Yes, there were a couple of big plays that Boo made this year, like at the Mississippi State game, that blowing up that screen in the backfield. Nobody went to help him up.
Yeah,
Nobody
you've been seeing those videos circulate around social media.
And then after he was dismissed from the team, there were a lot of reports that because when he had been let back on the team, Josh Heupel said that he had worked with the leadership committee and that they had he kind of had to earn their trust with them, and that's what let him back on the team. That there were a lot of them that didn't want him out there.
Also, rumors of a tail whooping.
Yeah,
and he got his butt beat. By the leadership team.
So I think that maybe that could be, like you said, an addition by subtraction, because there were a lot of plays this year where you're like, he does not care to be out there.
Yeah. That's a good argument. I hear you. It is going to be hard to replace athleticism, but do you have an A athlete giving 80%? Is he better than a B athlete giving 100%.
Yeah.
I think I would go with the B athlete giving 100%. It's going to be rough, I think, for the secondary, especially if the defensive line can't get home, and
that's going to be big as well.
Right, defensive line needs to get home on rushing, on 3rd and long. They need to
get some stops on third down.
Get some stops on 1st and 2nd down.
Yeah.
Get them in 3rd and long to where they have to pass. Don't put it all on the secondary shoulders to hold up for 5, 6, 7 seconds during a play. Let's get some pass rush. Let's make their quarterback uncomfortable. Let's see how that goes.
And listen, you look at DJ Lagway. He's had a 5-interception game this year. He's had a 2-interception game this year, and he's thrown 4 interceptions in his last 2 games.
Yeah,
to only 2 touchdowns.
I think the biggest thing for me in this game is I need to go to therapy for all the things that we've experienced and endured. Like, I need to have a therapist be like, it's okay, they can't hurt you now. Because that's what I feel.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. Like,
well, I'm sitting here.
I'm like, this isn't the same team. I heard it on a podcast earlier out of Fox Sports Knoxville. They were like, they compared it to Signetti being asked before the Penn State games, like, hey, Indiana never won at Penn State. But Signetti's response, this team's never played here. I want to be like that. Yes. I want to be like, yes, this Tennessee team has never played here, so the past doesn't matter. But it's college football. Weird things happen. The 2014 to 2017 stretch, minus Josh Dobbs winning in 2016, that was great. The curse was broken, we thought. And
realistically, we could have had a 4-year win streak on
We
them.
could have. So 2014,
10-9.
As a young whippersnapper, 10-9, checker kneeling, Will Muschamp comes in there and wipes his rear end with us. Like, disrespects us in the postgame interview.
They hadn't scored the entire game, and then Jeff Driscoll gets hurt after throwing 4 interceptions. They put in Trayon Harris, and he drives down the field, touchdown, field goal, game over.
And Will Muschamp's on the postgame be like, I love to see all these fans and
they're going
the
home
checkerboard, but they're going home disappointed. I love it. I love it. I'm like, oh my gosh, Will, I hate you so much.
Yeah.
So that was my day of hatred for Will. 2015, you go down there.
Another
you
Will.
had him dead to rights. Another
Greer.
Will, and a 63-yard 4th and
I think it was 4th and 17.
4th and 17, and Callaway's running down the sideline, and I'm like, oh no.
And I thought I thought we had gotten close enough to maybe give Aaron Medley a chance, but that dude was not the greatest kicker.
So 16, you win. 2017. Another 63-yard, this time Hail Mary straight to the end zone. A terrible
Felipe
Florida
Franks,
team. They're
Tyree
not
Cleveland.
good. Felipe Franks beating
Yeah.
us on the Hail Mary. The bad part is you still had Butch Jones on your freaking sideline and allowing that to happen. So I blame Butch for 2014, 2015, 2017. The Butch era is
And the
gone.
fact that we were down like 28 or 24-10 in the 2016 game.
We should have lost that one.
Yeah, but I'm on the same page with you. I think we need that just mental cleanse of, listen, Tennessee, you're going on the road to play a 3-7 team in the SEC.
Yeah.
Just go do it.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going with Tennessee.
I can't pick Tennessee. You're still
with Florida?
I'm still scared. If I was betting money, I would maybe I could hedge, but maybe I could be like, okay, I'm gonna buy the win.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy the win. Be like, okay, if I was betting, I could bet money on Florida.
Oh, I'm taking Florida in the spread.
So
if I place a bet on Saturday,
3?
it's Tennessee minus 4.5.
4.5.
So Florida to lose by less than 5, I would take that.
I would take that too. You could buy the win. You could be like, okay, Florida money line, and if Florida wins, great.
You get some money.
You get some cash.
If Florida loses, then Tennessee wins.
You bought the win.
Yes.
And you're okay with losing money there. That would be my guess. That if I gambled, then that's probably what I would do. But I could not put money on Tennessee. I could not put money on Josh Heupel going on the road. We didn't even really talk about that, but going on the road in the SEC, a night game, no, thank you.
I would say I think he's one of those that I can think of, and that's been two or three, and those have been at Kentucky.
He beat Oklahoma last year. That was
that was a night game.
That was a night game. So that was one that he kind of tried right off as a signature win, but Oklahoma wound up not being very good last year.
He is. You got to hit the ground running. I think Tennessee's going to need to score on their first
need,
2 or 3
You need
drives.
like 14 or 21 first
nothing.
quarter points.
Yes, I think you need to get out.
To get out and really just bury Florida early.
I want them to be completely buried before they can even get their
Do not
feet
let
back.
the crowd think. Like, the crowd needs to be leaving at halftime because we're up 2 or 3 scores, and they realize
I would like to see Josh
this is
Heupel go
over.
back to his first 2 years of play calling and, okay, let's say we get the ball first, go down and score.
Yeah.
Kick it off, 3 and out, we go down and score. Onside kick, get it back, go down and score. Do that, game's over.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. Yeah. All right, so that will do it for our first segment. When we come back, we're going to do our predictions for the rest of the games around the country. We got ACC, Big 12, Big 10, other SEC games, and then some games in the Group of 5. That will be coming up next on the Mark My Words Show.
For over 50 years, Southern Tennessee Regional Health System Lawrenceburg has been a cornerstone of care in Lawrence County. From cardiology to orthopedics, general surgery, primary care, and women's health, we offer compassionate expert care close to home. Our ER is now stronger than ever with more providers, chest pain accreditation, and our newest Joint Commission stroke accreditation because every second matters. Generations have trusted us for compassionate care and medical excellence. Faster, trusted, accredited. Emergency care with hometown heart.
Volco Auto Supply in Lawrenceburg has a legacy of being a family-owned and operated company. Since 1927, our business has grown and evolved into today's one-stop source for all your automotive supplies. But in that time, one thing has stayed the same, and that's our commitment to our customers and their needs. At Volco Auto Supply, you'll find everything for your car, truck, or even fleet of vehicles, but with good old-fashioned customer service the way it needs to be. That's Volco Auto Supply, 416 Buffalo Road in Lawrenceburg. Visit VolcoAuto.com.
Efficiency, reliability, accuracy. Move forward with your real estate sale or purchase with Title and Escrow of Lawrence County, the most experienced closing team around. Working with clients locally and throughout the state, we offer a wide range of services, including the expertise of an on-staff attorney, backed by our more than 49 years experience in titles and closings. We get the job done on time at a fair price and ensure every last detail is correct. Our goal is to give you peace of mind. When you work with us, you work with people who live where you do. We understand the importance of the real estate community and strive to build strong relationships with all parties involved in the process. Whether you're buying a home, selling a business, acquiring land, or anything in between, you're in good hands with Title and Escrow of Lawrence County.
Put the most experienced closing team on your side. Contact Title and Escrow of Lawrence County today.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. Wrapped up our first segment talking about one. We spent a good bit of time talking about this Tennessee-Florida game happening on Saturday. We talked about pretty much what the Alabama, Vanderbilt, or Tennessee needs to do for a chance to make the playoff. Now we'll hop into our predictions for the weekend. It's kind of that penultimate week of the season, so it's the SEC's cupcake week. Some teams are playing some big games, but for the most part, you got like Alabama, Eastern Illinois, Georgia, Charlotte, games like that. We'll hop into the ACC first with a game happening tonight, 7 p.m. on ESPN. Florida State at NC State. Two teams at 5-5 right now, looking to get to bowl eligibility. Looking at their games next week, I think both teams will get to bowl eligibility this season. Looking at how they've played as of late, though, both these teams a little bit on the cold end of things as a whole. Obviously NC State got that big win over Georgia Tech, kind of derailed their season, so to speak, and maybe that one loss was enough to keep them out of the playoff. And then have a bye week and then follow it up going on the road and getting beat by 34 against Miami. This week, Florida State, a chance to get right. You're at home. It's night. You're at Carter Finley Stadium. That's where you pulled off that big win against NC State. I mean, your last 2 home games you've won. You've looked good at home. Teams that haven't looked good on the road this year, Florida State. At Clemson, probably one of the worst they've looked this year. And then at Stanford, definitely the worst they have looked this year. Overall, I don't think either one of these teams is got a whole lot of momentum right now. To be truthful, both teams 2-3 in their last 5 games, and now I think NC State has had a really rough 4-game stretch. Notre Dame, at Pitt, Georgia Tech, at Miami. You look at Florida State's last 4: at Stanford, home versus Wake; at Clemson, home versus Virginia Tech. Fridays in the ACC can get weird. I think we're going to see C.J. Bailey have an absolute, just total complete game. Sling it around the yard, a couple touchdowns, maybe 50, 60 yards on the ground, something like that. I think the sophomore right now is trying to play himself into a $4 or $5 million NIL deal at some other school next season. Tommy Castellanos talked a big game heading into the season that he would beat Alabama, and he did. Didn't guarantee much more than that, and they haven't done much more than that. I just have a hard time thinking that they can get this done. Neither one of these teams have a very good defense. Both of these teams are very good at running the ball. I just think it favors NC State. I think they're more turnover prone, but it's a home game at night. I'm going to take the Wolfpack in this one. 11 a.m. on ESPN2, getting Saturday started with Louisville at SMU, the battle of the two teams that have beat Miami this year. We'll do battle in Dallas. Listen, you look at these teams 2 weeks ago, I would have picked Louisville, or maybe 3 weeks ago. I'm trying to think of when Louisville suffered their big injuries, but yeah, 3 weeks ago, I'm comfortable taking Louisville. They look like one of the better teams in the country. They're ranked number 15. They have a home game versus Cal coming up. But in that Virginia Tech game, you lose Isaac Brown. And that's an 800-yard rusher up to that point in the season. He had played 8 games, 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. He had been really good. You lose him. And then you lose 2 straight. You lose at home to Cal, and then at home to Clemson. 2 of the, I'd say, middle-of-the-road teams in the ACC, but not great teams. Now you got SMU and Kentucky to close the season, and watch out. You could be knocking on the doorsteps of going from 7-1 to 7-5. Really big danger zone for Louisville, and more injury problems at their running back spot with. Let me make sure I'm saying the right name. But obviously Isaac Brown done for the year, and this is a Louisville team that their foundation, at least early in the season, has been on the ground. You're also missing Kejuan Brown. He's injured. He will be missing this game. You're not going to have Miller. Well, Miller Moss right now questionable, but obviously will not be at 100%. I think this game is playing in perfectly to SMU. Kevin Jennings has had a really good year. This team's been a bit varying when it comes to running the ball. I think they'll be able to. They have a good collection of backs. I'm going to go with SMU to take this one and get themselves to 8 wins. A big one going on Saturday night in Atlanta. Pitt at Georgia Tech. Pitt 7-3 on the season, coming off a loss last week to Notre Dame. Desmond Reed got hurt again. They'll be without him in this, or he's questionable, so won't be at 100% if he does play. Georgia Tech coming off a scary game at Boston College where their defense is starting to get exposed week after week. Let's look at Georgia Tech right now. 9-1 on the season, you'd think, okay, and they have a guy that many people would see as a Heisman hopeful in their calling plays for him and Haynes King. But you look what their defense has done the past couple of weeks. Literally just the past 2 games. Giving up 48 to NC State on the road, giving up 34 to Boston College on the road. Pitt's another team that can put up a lot of points. They'll be without one of their best players. But this isn't one that plays into Miami or to Georgia Tech's play style at all. But I got a feeling they got that one punch left in them. Because this team knows that if they lose another game, they messed up losing to NC State because it was set up perfectly. They didn't have to play any of the tough teams other than Pitt, really. And Clemson in the early season was supposed to be good, but didn't end up being very good. They had a cakewalk to 11-0 and a date with Georgia at Mercedes-Benz right before the season. Sure, they can lose, but it would be a good loss, and they'd be comfortable in the playoff. Now, you've lost to NC State, and now your last 2 games are against Pitt, who has a great offense, and your defense has struggled, and Georgia. I'm going to take Georgia Tech in this one, because if not, they're done, and I still have them in the playoff. I still think they're a good team. We'll see what happens. Cal at Stanford. Now, why am I talking about this game? I was recently introduced to this rivalry back last fall. These 2 teams hate each other. I mean, it is cold-blooded hate. Funny enough, it's not actually being played on rivalry week. I'm going with Cal. They have really impressed me this year in some games. In other games, I have really questioned if this team is serious at all. Their head coach has kind of been on the hot seat off and on for most of the season. Because you look at this Cal team, they're 6-4 right now. Nobody had high hopes for them. They lose Mendoza in the transfer portal to Indiana. He's probably going to win the Heisman. You lose Jay Knott in the portal to Oklahoma. I don't know if he's shown up to practice yet. So you didn't know what you were getting out of this team. Well, they start the year 3-0. And then they lose to San Diego State, and you're really confused at what happens there. They beat Boston College. They're 4-1. They get destroyed by Duke, beat North Carolina, and then losing double overtime to Virginia Tech. Play Virginia very close, lose, then go beat Louisville. The keys, their quarterback. Sagapolatelli has 2,500 yards this year, not 13 touchdowns to 9 picks. It's the picks where it gets this team in trouble. In games where he has not turned the ball over, they are 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0 in games where he has not turned the ball over. In games he does turn the ball over, they are 1-0, 1-1, 1-2, 2-2, 2-4 in games where he turns the ball over. Ball safety. It's big for a freshman. Can't give these teams other drives. I think Stanford is a defense that's not going to be able to turn him over. I think Cal's going to pick up a big win in that one, 6:30 on the ACC network. On over to the Big 12. Some relatively big games, at least when it comes to bowl eligibility right now, because Kansas is at Iowa State, and the Jayhawks are 5-5. It's not been a great season for them. They thought that maybe this last season with Jalen Daniels had a chance to be special, and it did. And then I don't know if it was just the lack of talent on the team, but when you look up Kansas on the ESPN app now, it pulls up the football, or it pulls up the basketball team. That loss to Missouri really kind of put things in perspective, and then following it up with that loss to Cincinnati 2 weeks later. Because realistically, this team has gotten beat twice. Texas Tech beat them, and Kansas State beat them. Every other game, they've really beat themselves. 2 weeks ago, Arizona gets a nice win. But there's turnovers in that game that bite Kansas in the butt. I think if there's a defense that can force turnovers, especially on the road, it's Iowa State. Or at home, it's Iowa State. I think they'll get the big win at 11 a.m. on FS1. Baylor, 5-5 on the year, going on the road to the aforementioned Arizona Wildcats, 7-3. This one, the noon game on TNT. Baylor going through a lot of turmoil right now. They don't know if they should fire their coach. Their athletic directors had to step down following some controversies that may or may not include the football program. And Arizona has quietly built a really good resume, and the Wildcats could be one win away from being potentially a ranked team, which I think could be really exciting, especially when you look at that game next Friday against Arizona State. That could be a ranked versus ranked matchup for a lot of the marbles, so to speak. Maybe not in the sense of, Big 12 title hopes. Those are pretty much locked in as BYU and Texas Tech as of now. But Noah Fafita has quietly put together a really good season, 2,500 yards, 24 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, has added in 3 more on the ground. I hope he gets drafted. I get there's some concerns, with him being a smaller guy at 5'10", 185. The kid's a really good quarterback. TCU at Houston. This one at 3 p.m. on Fox. Listen, TCU 6-4, one of the better offenses in the country, but they're similar to Baylor, where injuries and turnovers have really hurt them this year. And Houston is a team that thrives off of mismatches and turnovers. It's at Houston. The Cougs 8-2 right now. Willie Fritz has done a really good job turning this program into a contending team in the Big 12, because last year Houston was not very good. They did not look competitive at all. Made you kind of wonder why the Big 12 went and added Cincinnati and UCF and Houston when those teams weren't ready to compete. And you look, other than UCF, who was slightly competitive in their first couple of years in the conference, Houston and Cincinnati have bounced back really well. And speaking of the Bearcats, they have a big one at home, 7 p.m. on Fox. Number 11 BYU coming to town, putting that 9-1 record on the line. And listen, this one is relatively important when it comes to Big 12 standings. I believe, because I don't think these two teams played this year, BYU and Houston, they did not. Listen, I think with a Houston win and a BYU loss, that maybe depending on some other things, we could be looking at Houston as a potential team because they would have the same record, a potential Big 10 or potential Big 12 title team. And then that launches them into the playoff talks, and that could get messy. But BYU has looked so good this year in every game but one. I mean, and it's crazy because I think they played 2 of their better games of the season the week before and the week after. BYU beating Iowa State by 14 on the road. Then they get dominated by Texas Tech. But then they come back and beat TCU at home by 31 points. BYU's favored by 2.5 on the road. Right now, injury report-wise, it looks like Evan Pryor and both Brendan Sorsby should be back. That gives Cincinnati their full rushing attack at home at night, with still some trying to salvage a little bit of their season. It may even launch them into the Big 10 title picture. I'm not exactly sure what all the tiebreakers are in the Big 12. Over to the Big 10, we got a game tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. on the Big 10 Network at Wrigley Field. Friendly Confines hosting one more Northwestern game. Actually, I believe they are doing the last, unless Northwestern's away next week, which I am unaware of. We'll try to check that out real quick. But they've had to do this the past couple of seasons just with the fact that their stadium's getting built and, they're playing on a lacrosse field. So their next game is away at Illinois. I think it's cool seeing games being played at obscure, baseball stadiums. I know Notre Dame has played a couple of games in Yankee Stadium when they were doing the Pinstripe Series. There's the Fenway Bowl. I don't know if Yankee Stadium has a bowl game going yet, but I know that Fenway Park does. Wrigley Field has been hosting a couple of Northwestern games. If you remember the game last weekend against Michigan, Northwestern forced a crap ton of turnovers, but couldn't get it done. They lose their running back. Minnesota's not a great team, but I think they have enough to get this one done if it doesn't come down to field goals, because it's windy in that stadium, and I mean they try to lay the field out where the wind's at the kicker's back or in the kicker's face, but if you watched that Michigan Northwestern game last weekend, you know that was not the case. USC at Oregon, the 2:30 CBS game this Saturday. Number 15 USC 8-2, number 8 Oregon 9-1, an old Pac-12 matchup. Usually the two best teams in the Pac-12, at least for the latter part of the 2000s, early 2010s. This is a big one. It's similar to that Oregon-Iowa game that we had 2 weeks ago. Oregon needs a big win here, because Oregon still really doesn't have a great win on the season. Yeah, Penn State, but they're not very good. Maybe Iowa, but they've lost 2 in a row. They're 6-4 now. You know, who could they beat? USC. They got them at home. This USC team is they're a good team, but they've struggled on the road against ranked teams. That's their 2 losses right now, at Illinois, at Notre Dame. Now, given those were games when you had to travel from nice sunny California to the Midwest and Champaign, Illinois, and South Bend, Indiana. You know, Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon's just right up the coast. It's not as far. You know, it's not going to be a change of time zone for the players. A 12:30 local kick. I just think Oregon's too physical. They've looked really good the past couple of weeks. After me saying that I didn't think they looked very good, they have looked really good as of late. I'm going with the Ducks. I got them quacking all the way to the playoff. If USC wins, though, it could get messy with Oregon not having good wins, USC now having a top 10 win. Could shape up weird for the playoffs and could maybe knock a team like an Alabama out of the playoff. I'm not exactly sure, though, with rankings and what all would happen. Number 18, Michigan at 4-6, Maryland. This one at 3 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. And we talked about it yesterday on Exports Today. Maryland always has a late season game against Ohio State or Michigan, and they give them a run for their money. This Maryland team is going through some turmoil, though. Obviously, with their head coach, doesn't know if he's fired, if he's coming back. Who knows? Michigan's rolling, man. Their running game has been awesome. Should be getting Justice Haynes back pretty soon. He's kind of played off and on, so to speak, the last couple of weeks. And he's not even the team's leading rusher anymore. Jordan Marshall has taken that over because he's been running the ball at 6 yards a clip on the season, almost at 900 yards. The sophomore has been awesome. Ran for over 110 yards every game since the USC game, when he only got 14 carries for 68 yards. Other games he wasn't getting nearly as many carries because of Haynes, but you look at Justice Haynes. Well, he played in that Michigan State game, but hasn't played since then. So you look, and it's been 3 weeks since he's been on the field. Is he going to be good to go for this game against Maryland? I tell you, but the Big Ten decides that their injury reports only need to come out, or availability reports only need to come out 2 hours before games, when every other conference does it 2 to 3 days prior to the games. Big shout out to the Big Ten on that one. Nebraska at Penn State. We're getting 2 NBC games this week. This one really intrigues me because Penn State wants Nebraska's coach. Not sure if that's changed. Obviously, Rule signed an extension. But you got 2 teams that are on completely different playing fields right now. Dylan Raiola, done for the season. Drew Howard, done for the season. These are 2 teams without their quarterbacks. These are 2 teams with really good running games. Emmett Johnson for Nebraska, the two-headed monster of Singleton and Allen for Penn State. It's at Happy Valley. It's at night. It's 110,000 fans screaming down your neck, and you're a quarterback for Nebraska that hasn't been in an environment like that. Not exactly sure who their backup is that started the last couple of games. But if it's a young guy and this is his first true road test, which it's looking that way, TJ Lateef, freshman from Southern California. I don't know exactly what the temperature is supposed to be in Happy Valley at the time of kick, but late November at night in Pennsylvania, it's going to be cold. For that reason, and I get it gets cold in Nebraska, but just feels like a game Penn State's going to win. The other game on NBC that night, Washington at UCLA. I think Washington will control the pace of this game. UCLA had a nice little run. They started 0-4, won 3 straight, lost 3 straight. Fun's over. Maybe they could get to 4-8. I don't know. They got a rough slate down the stretch. Washington, they had their. Listen, every team has that one game that every year that you would just completely like to forget and pretend never happened. For Washington, they already had that. And that was that Wisconsin game back where they got beat 13-10 in the ugliest football game I have ever seen. And UCLA defense has not been great. most of the season. And Washington has a fairly well coached defense. You know, they're going to be a good defensively against the run. Have been some injury concerns with Jonah Coleman and Denzel Boston. But look, I'm a big believer in Damon Williams. I think that he could be a really good quarterback, maybe at UCLA next year. I don't know. I just don't think Jedd Fisch is going to be at Washington next year. But that's neither here nor there. On to the SEC, where number 22 Missouri is heading to Norman to take on the 8th-ranked Sooners, the 11 a.m. game on ABC. Listen, Missouri, they've updated Bo Pribula from out to questionable. Don't think he's necessarily going to be at 100%, and he's more of a running quarterback. Has a decent arm, but he's not going to win games throwing. When you look at Oklahoma, best rush defense in the country, by far. You look at the way they dominated Tennessee's run game, who's been a pretty good run defense, or a pretty good running team. They even shut down Ole Miss a little bit in a game that was heavily, it was a run-heavy game due to the weather. Missouri's only way to move the ball is with Ahmad Hardy. Ran for 300 yards last week. I think that may have been the worst thing that you could have done, was show that, hey, if we just give this dude the ball a ton, he's going to run for 300 yards. I'll be shocked if he gets over 50 in this game. I think Oklahoma's run defense is that good. They're an old-style football team, and their offense isn't going to have to do much. Maybe hit one big pass play to Isaiah Sategna. Maybe you have Robinson break off another big run. Mateer's proved that he can make plays with his legs now. I think Oklahoma's in a great spot. They got two, what most people would call quality wins, Missouri and LSU, left on their schedule. And they're very winnable games for them. I'm going with the Sooners. The other second-year SEC team, Texas, is at home against Arkansas, 2:30 on ABC. Listen, I've picked Arkansas for like the last 4 weeks because I think, this is a team that doesn't have a great offense or doesn't have a great defense that they can run with or that they can try to outscore. And it always comes down to if Taylon Green doesn't turn the ball over. Well, let's go look at Mr. Green because he does that a lot, and he's done it a lot as of late. You know, that Auburn game, I was like, man, there is no way that Auburn holds them to little enough points to beat them. There's no way that happens. Well, when Taylon Green throws, 4 interceptions in that game? 3 interceptions in that game. I believe he had a fumble as well. Yeah, you're going to lose. You know, in games like against A&M, no interceptions, looked really good. They were close. No interceptions against Ole Miss. They were really close in that game. But then 2 picks against LSU and a 1-point loss. If you had just not thrown one of those picks, maybe I'll win that game. But I'm done saying if Taylon Green doesn't turn the ball over because he's going to. 10 interceptions on the year, a couple fumbles in there as well that have cost them some games. And Arkansas is going to win 2 games this year. And it, kind of sucks, but, if you want to win some football games, you got to have defensive coaches, Bobby Petrino, and I think firing them 4 games into the season, while they hadn't been good, I don't think it wasn't going to get this much worse with those guys there. Kentucky at Vanderbilt. Kentucky, I mentioned them, very hot right now. Cutter Boley is probably the most exciting Kentucky quarterback we've had since Will Levis stopped putting mayonnaise in his coffee. Vandy, though, coming off a bye week, they looked good. Their offense has looked so good the past couple of weeks. Their defense has been shaky, though. Last year I think this was a 17-7 or a 14-7. It was a really low scoring, maybe 24-14, 21-14. I'll pull up the score from this game last year. It was a low scoring game. Pavia was beat up. Just an kind of an ugly game. 20-13. So yeah, ugly game, not very fun. I think this one's going to be much different. I think it's going to be up and down the field. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I think both defenses are going to struggle, but I think Vandy will prevail, like a 45-24 kind of victory. One we already talked about, Tennessee, Florida, 6:30 p.m. on ABC. Same thing me and Bryant talked about earlier. If the last 20 years hadn't happened, maybe Tennessee won a couple of times down there, maybe in 2015, maybe in 2017, when games you should have won. I'd feel a little better right now. But I was 3 months old the last time Tennessee won in Gainesville. That should tell you everything you need to know right there. And in most people watching this in your lifetime, if you're under the age of, I think it's 73, you have seen Tennessee win in Gainesville 3 times in your life. And trust me, there are a lot of those years where Florida was not the better team. And Florida's not the better team this year. And Tennessee is a team that has had turnover problems with Joey Aguilar. Like I mentioned with Bryant earlier, if Tennessee gets out to a hot start, I feel good. If Tennessee gets out to a slow start, a couple of punts, a fumble, an interception, something like that, and it's 13-7 going into half, I wouldn't feel good about that at all. Doesn't matter who has the lead or who gets the ball at a half. Just a couple of games to keep your eyes on. Coastal Carolina at South Carolina. Carolina coming off their worst loss ever after almost getting it their biggest win ever, feels like. Coastal, it's not the same Coastal with Grayson McCall and Jamie Chadwell. It's not the same team, but they're still exciting. They're 6-4. It's not. I don't think it's going to be a scare, but it could. One that has a bigger chance to Western Kentucky at LSU. Now, Western Kentucky is one of the better passing offenses in the country. Maverick McIver's was having a good season. I'm not sure. He was having some injury problems at one point in the season. I'm not sure if those have still been a problem. Let me find Mr. Maverick right here. Okay, he just does not want to pop up, so we will look up Western Kentucky. Now, listen, the Hilltoppers have had another good season. There's no hiding that. They are right now sitting at second in the NCUSA at 6-1 overall, in the conference 8-2 overall on the season, with their 2 losses coming to Toledo, which I think Toledo should have been a much better team this year, and FIU. They've looked good as of late. Listen, LSU's 3 touchdown favorites. It looks like MacGyver has had some injury problems that Rodney Tisdale's had to play a little bit. In that case, maybe not as big of a one to keep an eye on. If it was the same Western Kentucky that we saw the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season when MacGyver was throwing for 400 yards, I'd say keep an eye on it. But LSU defense is good. This has a 24/7 kind of feel to it. Other games to keep an eye on: Hawaii at UNLV. I'd say UNLV at least still has a slight chance of making the playoff. A big win at Hawaii would do that, but listen, UNLV's defense has been really bad this year, and Hawaii's been really good. I mean, that's all I can say. They beat San Diego State a couple weeks ago. I think they'll get another big opportunity to win, and they will do so. One of my favorite games that doesn't feature a Power 5 team this week: Washington State at James Madison. Washington State's played some teams close this year. They're in the Pac-2. Next week they'll have another game against Oregon State. But this game really intrigues me because Washington State's come across the country several times this year. They came and played Ole Miss and took them to the wire. They came and played Virginia the next week when Virginia was still like 14 or 15 in the country. Played them all the way down to the wire. How do they handle James Madison? Because I don't think James Madison is nearly at the tier of Virginia and Ole Miss, but I think they're probably right there with Virginia, not to the Ole Miss level. This one at noon on ESPN Plus. Keep an eye on it. Oh, and that Hawaii UNLV game tonight, 9:30 p.m. on FS1. Tulane at Temple, 2:45 on ESPNU. ESPNU's got a pretty good slate on Saturday. Tulane, the only Group of 5 team ranked, the highest Group of 5 ranked team right now in the playoff. Who knows? Will that change in the next couple of weeks? They're going to have to get a win at Temple to do so. The team that I think should have the Group of 5 ranking right now, North Texas, is at Rice. 2 Texas teams, 9-1 at 5-5. This one's 6:30 on ESPNU. Listen, I don't know if anybody can stop the offense that North Texas has. And you just listen to some of the quarterbacks that Eric Morris has developed just in his past couple of years. Right now, Drew Mestemaker, freshman quarterback, 3,000 yards on the money. 3,000 yards, 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions as a freshman. But, if you need more proof, well, there's guys like Patrick Mahomes. He's a pretty good quarterback. Safe to say, Eric Morris can develop some really good quarterbacks. Just looking at some of the other guys he's coached wherever he's been. I see John Mateer in there. I see Cam Ward in there. From his time at Incarnate Word. Eric Morris is going to be the next Power 5. Is going to be the I think the highest sought after name for that Group of 5 to Power 5 jump. If Arkansas doesn't get him, Oklahoma State needs to, because that's a guy that can build your program for the next 20 years. An interesting one, and the only reason I'm talking about it is because of one game that happened earlier this season: San Jose State at San Diego State. Now, why is a 3-7 team playing at an 8-2 team a big deal? Well, San Jose has some strange games this year. They've been in some strange games. San Diego State 12-point favorites. But, they beat Idaho. They lose by 1 to Stanford. They beat New Mexico, who is a pretty dang good team right now. I mean, being that they are, 4th in your conference and 7-3 overall. But then they have, a win over Hawaii. But then you lose by 45 to Nevada. I just don't know what to think of this team. It's interesting because I think San Diego State still slight chance to get in the playoff. They're going to need to get a big win. That one at 9:30 on FS1 tomorrow night. So, yeah, that will do it for the college football section. We will do college basketball. Just look over some of the games that we've had throughout the week and we'll have coming up this weekend. Arizona at UConn. That one was back on a Wednesday, number 4 versus number 3. And listen, Arizona is one of the best teams in the country. I think that they are probably number 2 right now, maybe 3, which is crazy. 4 beating 3, they should jump up a ton. Purdue is still really good, and we'll talk about them in a minute. Purdue is still really good, and Houston is amazing. I'm really excited to watch Houston in this Players Era tournament. One of their games being against Tennessee. I think they're legit. Dayton getting an overtime win, 77-71 over Marquette. Shaka Spart's refusal to use the transfer portal will be the death of him, similar to what we've seen happen with Clemson and Dabo Swinney. Alabama getting a 90-86 win over Illinois at the United Center on Wednesday night. LeBaron Fallon looks really good. Illinois is right there. They're really good, but defensively they're a little slow. So if a team's going to run against them, like a lot of teams in the SEC, like a lot of teams in the Big 12 will, it's going to cause them some problems. But listen, Big 10, Big East basketball, it's a slow half court pace. They're excellent in that kind of game. Just a bad matchup for them. Because I do think top to bottom that they're probably more talented than Alabama this year. Just the sheer amount of just question marks just from all the European players they brought in. I mean, you don't know what this team's limit could be. It really is the sky's the limit. Purdue getting a win over Memphis last night, 80-71. Bit of a scuffle between Aaron Bradshaw and Oscar Clough. Strange. Had a Nebraska player lose his tooth last night in an 84-72 win over New Mexico. UCF over Pitt, 77-67. Wake Forest, the best 3-2 team in the country. They lost last night to Texas Tech in one of the opening round games of the Baja Mar tournament. Texas Tech 84-83 win over Wake Forest. But Wake Forest right now has 2 losses to Texas Tech and at Michigan. And combined less than, I think that Michigan loss was like 2 points. Don't know the exact number. But Wake is going to be really, really good this year. I think that they're going to be that Clemson kind of team that we saw in the ACC that, okay, they could be good. They might be good. You don't know. But we'll have to see them in conference play. And then Clemson kind of just, I guess you could say, hid in conference play until that big win over Duke at home. I think Wake could be that team this year. because they've really come out of nowhere. I don't think that Clemson team necessarily last year came out of nowhere. They were coming off a Final Four, but they had lost a lot from the year before. You know, what really are you going to get out of them? I don't exactly know, but I do know that they're a fun team and that you should watch out for them because they do have a game tonight against Memphis. And it's crazy that Memphis is going to start this season 1-4 just off the sheer toughness of their schedule. Yeah, their 2 losses right now are by a combined 2 points. So they're 2 stops on this season away from being perfect with 2 wins over top 15 teams. That would put them up there with UConn or with Arizona as one of the best resumes in the country. Speaking of Mississippi State, are 2-2. They have really struggled this year. Fell to Kansas State last night, 98-77. Jerome Tang has done an awesome job with this Kansas State team. They're 5-0. Have a matchup with a former Big 12 foe in Nebraska tonight. And we'll get into the games for the weekend. Not a whole lot. I'll be back. Our next show will be Wednesday, and I'll talk about some of the games that have been going on over Monday and Tuesday, and we'll preview the games for the rest of Feast Week. But, man, we got a slate tonight, actually starting in about 30 minutes. South Carolina against Butler, that one at 1 p.m. on CBS Sports. Number 23, Wisconsin versus number 9, BYU. This one at 3 p.m. on Peacock. Really excited for this one. Wisconsin has been one of the better up-and-down teams in the Big Ten. BYU suffered the one loss to UConn last weekend, but listen, A.J. DeBanza, Richie Saunders, and Rob Wright III, I think are the best 3 players on a team in the country. Northwestern versus Virginia, this one at 4 p.m. on CBS Sports. Both of these teams undefeated. And listen, 19 of the last 20 national champions, folks, have been undefeated through Thanksgiving. So if that team's got a loss by their name right now, you might not. Maybe you'll be the one that breaks it, but not looking likely. Louisville at Cincinnati could be an interesting one tonight, 5:30 on ESPN2. Louisville, one of the better teams in the ACC, has a great win over Kentucky. Cincinnati still perfect on the season, looking to, what a big win. That would be a former Big East matchup. West Virginia at Clemson, this one at 5:30 p.m. on ESPNU. Hey, listen, the Mountaineers 5-0 on the season have looked really good. Clemson has that one loss to Georgetown, but I think they're still going to be a formidable ACC team. That's going to be a good one tonight. Mississippi State, New Mexico. I'm just curious to see how these two teams bounce back. New Mexico is going to be one of the better teams in the Mountain West. Mississippi State, though, they have Josh Hubbard and what else? That's the question. I'm curious to see if he has enough to get them over the hump against Mississippi State or against New Mexico. That one at 6 o'clock tonight on Peacock. Georgia, the Bulldogs 5-0 versus Xavier 3-2. Not been a great start to 2025 for the Musketeers. Obviously you're losing that first 4 games to Texas, and then Texas takes your coach. Actually, I believe they won that first 4 game against Texas. But nonetheless, Texas takes your coach. You lose in the tournament. And now you're 3-2, and Richard Pitino's your guy, but you haven't gotten a lot out of him, and the defense has not been good. Georgia, one of the better offenses in the SEC early going. That one could get ugly. I'm thinking like a Georgia, 98-72 kind of win. Like, I don't think it's going to be remotely close. Most exciting game of the night, though, number 15 Texas Tech 4-1 at number 1 versus number 1 Purdue for the Baja Mar Championship Classic. We saw this matchup between Baylor and Tennessee last year. It was a great game. Got to see two of the two really good young stars in Chaz Lanier and VJ Edgecombe. In this one, you're getting Braden Smith versus JT Toppin. I'm actually really curious to see the matchup between Toppin and whether he's matched up with Trey Kaufman-Wren or put Oscar Clough on him. Curious to see how they try to defend him because he has been one of the best forwards in college basketball this year. It's been tough to stop. Again, that matchup I mentioned earlier, Kansas State versus Nebraska, both teams still perfect. Both teams looking to get to 6-0 tonight. That one at 8:30 on Peacock. On Saturday, not a lot of big-time matchups. Still lots of basketball, not any in the Power 5. So watch the football games we talked about. There's plenty of there to keep you tame, so to speak. Maybe at the 11 a.m. slot, Louisville SMU could be a good one. maybe you want to watch the game that's going on in Wrigley. Maybe you want to watch Missouri, Oklahoma. I know Tennessee, Florida will be a great game that night. But middle of the day, you could look for USC, Oregon on CBS. You got a ton of football to watch on Saturday. Sunday, a couple of more games. Butler versus Virginia. That one at 1 p.m. on CBS Sports, and then Northwestern versus South Carolina. That at 4 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. So that will do it for this Friday edition of the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. Real quick, I would just like to say that all of the thoughts and prayers from X Sports are with the family of Toby Dunn, former coach and teacher at Loretta High School, passed away on Monday, and is a really, really special guy to me. I had him as a math teacher, as an Algebra 2 teacher back in high school, but our relationship really developed when on the sports side of things, with him being a baseball coach and me announcing a lot of games for Loretto. We developed a really good relationship then, and then obviously his classroom shared a wall with my mom's classroom, so obviously they were really close. So just our thoughts and prayers from us here at X Sports are with with Coach Dunn, with his family, with his Loretta High School family, that baseball team, and just all of his friends and family. So that will do it for this week's Mark My Words here on the X Sports Network. We will be back on Wednesday as we get you ready for Feast Week. So for Michael Marks, have a good weekend, everybody.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.